So Travis, what's with the hat?
Which hat? This one?
That hat.
Oh, this hat is trying to promote U.S.-made bicycles. What did you think it was?
Wasn't sure.
Yeah. That's really all it's about. It's a really, original idea.
Kind of thing that's in short supply these days, US-made bikes.
Yeah, not a lot of them.
We had a couple, though.
Yeah, we got a couple. We got a couple on this test, actually. One of them is the Guerrilla Gravity Trail Pistol. So it's their 120 mil rear, 130 front, kind of 29-inch trail pistol. It's up against a lot of carbon bikes. That's pretty much the dominant material here. Yeah. But is that really all that matters? I mean, is there more to good bike design than the frame material?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And this bike takes a pretty radical approach to what is going to set it apart, other than it being made of plastic.
How so?
So it's long. Yeah, it's huge.
And we rode a medium.
Yeah, how long was that bike?
So the wheelbase on this one, to use a non-American measurement, is 1,207 millimeters.
My God, that's over 47 inches.
Yeah. Really long reach. The medium's got 465 millimeters reach. Now, their reasoning behind that, it's the trend towards longer reach bikes. Right. Also, if you look at the sizing chart of a lot of bike companies, 510 is right at the cutoff between medium and large. Yep. So the most commonly occurring height of people are being forced to choose between a bike that's a little too small and a little bit too big.
All right, the wheelbase is still ridiculously long, I think.
It is definitely the longest bike in the mid-travel category.
Okay.
By far.
And I mean, but it's a horse link bike, right? Mm-hmm. And so you got a 4-bar suspension going on. Yep. And I mean, given the wheelbase and it is it's a very big medium frame. Mm-hmm. I found that I actually fit the cockpit pretty comfortably, and the C2 angle and everything was comfortable. But when you get on the pedals, I thought it really accelerated extremely efficiently, and that's where my compliments end.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I wasn't sure if I was riding a mountain bike or driving a DeLorean, because I thought it was back in 2002 riding an early 29er.
I really enjoyed this bike. On a lot of levels I didn't expect to. I thought the suspension worked very well. It was 120 mil travel bike. It efficient, pedaled nicely, could motor through stuff, worked. It was a good execution of a horse link, I thought. But yeah, there was a little bit about just the way the front center steering, how it would it did a lot of the stuff that once upon a time 20-inch bikes where they hadn't quite reconciled head angles and fork offset, basically, where they could kind of deflect out of rocks, and then we're in the land of a million rocks, and it was just it was a little harder to keep it where you needed it to be at times.
So this one's got a 66.6 degree head angle, which is, I would say, on the slack side for a bike with these numbers.
It didn't feel
really
like that.
Feel like a slack bike, no.
Yeah. I mean, this bike was I was bouncing and getting deflected uphill and down. I couldn't couldn't hold the line and going. I mean, the front end was pushing in uphill corners, and I was running what they recommended, 25% sag in the shock. Ran the shock open the whole time for optimum traction on these loose conditions, and ran it's a pike fork. We're all very familiar with that, and I was running 20% sag in that, which I always do. And so getting the bike set up was not an issue. I'm pretty confident that I was able to get it in the ballpark of how I would ride those bikes. But it just felt like I had 2 left feet the whole time on that bike.
See, I thought it was pretty carvy and nice going downhill, actually, as long as you could keep speed going. As soon as speed kind of dropped down a bit, it just kind of began to get confused in tight stuff, and in tight stuff it felt long. It felt like a lot of bike to get through tighter sections, and once your momentum died, it felt difficult to manage compared to some of the other bikes we've been riding.
When I was able to manage it was in the bouncy rock sections. What I liked about it was, so it's 120 mil, and it's a pretty progressive rear end. And especially, they recommend a 25% sag. Yep. If you want to run a little bit deeper sag, like 2730, which is pretty average, they recommend adding a volume spacer to make it even a little bit more progressive. That's the part of this bike that really spoke to me, is a company like Guerrilla Gravity that is aimed at riding a little more aggressively. They want this bike, even though it's got a little bit shorter travel, for you to really be bouncing around with it and jumping up, you know, like jumping off of stuff. It's supposed to be kind of a toy.
To me, it felt like whenever I was going faster on the bike, it felt great. I actually really enjoyed the way the suspension worked, but to me, the biggest issue was just the length in slow, tight going, and that's where I started to have problems. You thought that in tight, slow stuff, it was kind of okay.
Part of it might have been my height.
Your kids, yeah, are considerably taller than both of us. So,
But climbing, I thought it was a pretty powerful climber. 75.8 degree seat angle.
Yep.
I mean, it
And sit right on top of those cranks.
So they really were pouring some modern numbers into this bike. Now the parts they put on this one, we kind of had a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
They have one for $4,500, Pike front suspension, deluxe rear, and mixed XT build. They have one for $55 that is XO 1x guide brakes, and we had the wheels from one, the cranks from another, and that's one of the cool things about this being a small US made bike is you can pretty much have them build that however you want.
Yeah.
You call them up on the phone, you talk to the people who built and designed your bikes, you tell them the parts you want, you tell them the color you want, you tell them the color of stickers you want, and they either send it directly to you, you can actually get them through a bike shop, the bike shop is able to take a bit of a cut. Like they kind of they want you to be able to buy the bike wherever and however you want. So they really capitalize on the things that you can only do as a small US made company.
on paper, all the numbers you guys have been talking about, that does sound ideal. You know, it's exactly what, you know, we all would probably want. You know, it sounds like you guys were able to feel like those characteristics way more than I was, and perhaps it's just bike setup or height.
One of the cool things about the variety of bikes that we get to look at is that some of them are kind of polarizing, like this one. A lot of good bikes coming out right now. Is this one of them?
I kind of think so. I'm willing to give its day in court.
No, well, I'm willing to argue against you in court. So.
Yeah, fine.